Hey guys, Ryan and Greg here, and we're back. And as we wait for season 10 of American Horror Story, we thought we'd have some fun. We want to go back to past seasons of the show, specifically talk about the best characters ever. And what we mean by that, our all-time favorites. Sound good, Greg?
Yes, all-time favorites. Again, favorites here. So if I were on an island and who do I want to rock with, they may kill me, but I'm going to have a smile on my face. So I'm cool with my list.
Yes, they'll definitely kill you, Greg. For this video specifically, we each put together a top 10 list. But guess what? We're going to do specific character rankings as well in the future here, so make sure you're subscribed. We're going to rank every single performance of Jessica Lange, Sarah Paulson, Evan Peters, and so on. Let us know who we should focus on first. And again, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of this.
Also, everyone, make sure to check out our season rankings video that we did a few months ago. And of course, spoilers ahead. Let's jump into it. Okay, wait 1 second. Before we jump into our top 10, I think we have to do honorable mentions because I was devastated with my list. Just the names I had to cut off from this list to make it 10. Brian, I was not having fun here, so I made us do an honorable mentions. I'm sorry. It was like the good son. I had to drop somebody down that cliff. I was not thrilled with it, but here we are. So Ryan, what's your list?
Hey, first, before we get started, I like the Macaulay Culkin reference because, you know, that ties into season 10. So yeah. Kudos to you, Greg. Some honorable mentions on my side. Oliver Thredson, Bloody Face from Asylum. Also, Marie Laveau. I can't believe she's not on my list. I know you're going to kill me for this. Angela Bassett's incredible in this performance. It's one of the most iconic characters. Also, on the flip side of that same season, Fiona Goode. Yes, Greg. Fiona Goode is not on my list. I think I failed you guys. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And finally, one more honorable mention. Michael Langdon. I didn't put him there. I'm sorry. I love Cody Fern and I love the role, but I don't know. It didn't entirely captivate me throughout the entire season. With that being said, Greg, what are your honorable mentions that just narrowly missed your top 10?
Okay, let me look at them again. I hate even saying their names. Okay, well, one, Violet Harmon. This is where it all began. She's one of our first characters that you fell in love with on this series and this whole entire universe. From there, we go to, Leigh Emerson. It's just a bat crazy character by Ian McShane. He just went to town with that character, and I absolutely adored it. And then from there, we go Stanley, of course. Come on, Dennis O'Hare. This won't be the only time we talk about Dennis O'Hare, so that's why Stanley's not on the list, because I had to make room. And then at the same time, this one hurts. It's Misty Day. But with that said, again, I had to make room on my list. It sucks that it had to be her, but she didn't make my list, but she's still one of my favorite characters.
All right, with that being said, we got the honorable mentions out of the way, Greg. So let's start at number 10. This is my pick at number 10, and I have Dandy Mott. This is easily Finn Wittrock's most iconic performance in my eyes. A spoiled man-child turned sadistic serial killer with a god complex. Dandy's tantrums seem innocent at first, but then you soon realize just how sick and twisted he really is. He's also used to getting everything he wants in life, and when he's told no, he takes matters into his own hands by killing nearly everyone. He even kills his own mother, who's coddled him since birth and kind of looked away from all the horrible things he's done. Now, luckily, by the end of the season, Dandy gets what he deserves and becomes the star of the show. In other words, he's killed by the remaining freaks, and thankfully, the Mott family line ends right there. Now, Greg, there's so many great moments of Dandy Mott throughout Freak Show, but that American Psycho Patrick Bateman inspired monologue slash montage of his is one of the most incredible sequences from the series.
And I practice acting faces in front of the mirror: sad, happy, moody.
And then one of the most terrifying moments in the whole season is when he goes on that killing spree at the Freak Show, and he nearly succeeds in killing every single freak here. So I think Wittrock just the way he played this character, on the verge of snapping at any moment, and just kind of the ridiculousness and the tantrums of like a man-child, I just thought it was incredibly done.
Easily the highlight of Freak Show, along with Jessica Lange. The Finn Wittrock did an amazing job, keeping up there with everyone else in that cast, including Sarah Paulson and Evan Peters in their roles, and Kathy Bates. He was able to just just shine in this performance. I loved him in it. Now we're going to stick to the same season because number 10 on my list is actually Chester Creb. Portrayed by Neil Patrick Harris, this magician slash ventriloquist was easily one of the best guest roles in American Horror Story history. Now, I already knew that Harris was an insanely talented actor from his time on How I Met Your Mother, but Harris's performance as a disturbed war veteran left me with thoughts that this man has absolutely no ceiling. He was able to nail this character with only 2 episodes. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if they use this for a reel down the line if he becomes the Joker or Riddler. I'm just saying it now. Killing Joke. It's gonna happen. I feel like number 1 on that list, power rankings for the next Joker, it's gotta be NPH. Also, fun fact, everyone, that creepy Marjorie doll, that is in his house, apparently, or he owns it. Now, my favorite moment has to be when Chester pulls up to the police department, the dead Marjorie doll, and he has to be locked up. It's so good.
Send me to the chair!
I think you're spot on here, Greg. You know, we don't talk a lot about some of the guest appearances on AHS, but Neil Patrick Harris's Chester Creb was pretty incredible, and it was a late season addition too, but it kind of fit completely perfectly in Freak Show. So great choice here. Number 9 for me is Kai Anderson. Now, at the time, Kai Anderson seemed like an over-the-top dramatization of a power-hungry cult leader, but honestly, this seems more and more believable in 2021, which is extremely scary. The reason why Kai is on my list is because of Evan Peters' performance, clearly. It's truly terrifying. Kai is charismatic as hell and able to manipulate everyone around him to his benefit. Throughout the course of the season, we get a slow burn from innocent internet troll to a full-blown murdering cult leader. You know, also Evan Peters is playing a ton of cult leaders throughout the season, so kudos to Evan Peters here. And Kai Anderson is a frightening look at how one person can accumulate so much power and become completely morally corrupt with it, and kind of use it only to see the world around him burn down. There's so many great moments and terrifying moments, just horrifying moments, but I think every single time I see Evan Peters and Sarah Paulson square off in this season of Cult, it's like fireworks. It's electrifying. At her front door is one that comes to mind when he's kind of like spooking her. Even later on when they're having a meal together and we think that she's kind of, you know, on his side, but she's obviously playing him. Every single time they're together, I enjoy.
What runs in my head all the time is that threesome he tried to pull off with his sister. Again, what?
That's not a best moment, Greg.
No.
We don't speak of that. Forget it happened.
I swear by the moon and the stars and the
What the is this?
All right, my number 9 is another Evan Peters. But like I said earlier, who I want to rock with on my island, yeah, Kai Anderson's not invited. I'm sorry, he's not going to make the list. Just going to put that out there. But I'm going to go with Kit Walker. Now, to be honest, I went back and forth between Jimmy Darling and Kit, and I sided with Kit because the effects he had on his surrounding gang of characters that left them in slightly happier endings. I mean, all of his children came out well, and so did Sister Jude, and that's contrast to the poor souls that Jimmy orbited. Sorry, Maggie. I'm rocking with Kit Walker here. He's one of the good guys. I love this character. And for me, his best moment, it has to be towards the end of the season in his final conversation with Alana Winters. I just think it sums up his character so well, where he's just a good guy. He's just a good person trying to look out for everyone at the end, and he's not getting into anything that Winters wants to sell him here on trying to sell her book. He's just looking out for the best for everyone here.
Those last 6 months made up for a lifetime of horrors. But she sure seemed happy.
Time now for number 8 on my list, and it is Myrtle Snow. There's no character in American Horror Story with better one-liners than Myrtle Snow, played brilliantly by Frances Conroy. On top of that, she's probably the most fashionable character as well. There's a lot of competition here, though.
Only one.
We were first introduced to her early in season 3 of Coven, and her story obviously continued in Apocalypse. The constant throughout, though, Conroy steals nearly every scene she's in with all the other actors. She's one of the most wise, noble, and witty characters with a true heart of gold and unbreakable bond for her sister witches. Also, she has a very natural maternal instinct in a relationship with Cordelia Goode, something that she lacked with Fiona, so to see the evolution of that relationship was really beautiful on screen. There are a handful of best moments, Greg. I could rattle off 10 or 20 from what Myrtle Snow has done in the series, but one of the ones that stand out to me is when she got some revenge on her council, her witches council cohorts by scooping out their eyeballs. And then if we move over to Apocalypse, literally every time she comes in contact with the warlocks, she just disses them. She has all these witty comebacks and one-liners. It's absolutely awesome to see Myrtle Snow in her element and just kind of on the offensive against all these other characters.
Perhaps you haven't noticed the state of the world.
It's almost as bad as your dinner jacket, but at least the world can be saved.
Now, speaking of fashion, my number 8 is Liz Taylor. Dennis O'Hare stole the show with Liz. Whenever I think of Hotel, Liz will always stand out as one of the best characters in that 5th season. Liz's clear-sighted demeanor gave her great chemistry to work with off the other guests in the hotel. O'Hare was absolutely committed to the role, and it never felt like he was playing a character as a caricature. For me, the best moment has to be the Claudia Bankson moment with at the fashion show where Liz just reads her.
Skinny jeans are out, fringes in, and ponchos are forever. Make a note of it.
Now, I have more to say on Liz, but I have a feeling this isn't the only time I'm going to be talking about Liz, so I'll stop there and we'll move on.
Buy your own damn flower.
Next up on my list is number 7, and it's Twisty. Now, Twisty is perhaps the most iconic monster in the entire series of the show. He's one of those characters that's forever etched in my memory after watching season 4 of Freak Show. His story is not all blood and guts, though. It's quite tragic. We get a little background on what happened prior to him becoming this murdering clown. He was picked on and unfairly treated and ultimately labeled as a child molester, which is not true. With no job and family troubles, he tried to take his own life and even failed at that.
Well, hello, beautiful.
Then he committed to full-on serial killer clown mode, and it's not until he meets with Edward Mordrake and is killed that he kind of finds his own troupe that he feels at home with. We know how effective clowns are at scaring the living hell out of people. Greg, you know firsthand. And I think that like Twisty was just the perfect encapsulation of American Horror Story in terms of like how to terrify people with an environment of a freak show, with this theme that we had going on. You know, he's looking to perform for other people. That's all he wanted in life. It's a very sad story, but also a very, very good horror device in this season of Freak Show. Now, speaking of the best moment, I mean, I still think his introduction to the show early on in the season when we see the young couple picnicking, and I can't get that moment out of my memory.
Troy?
All right, let's move on to number 7 here. On my list is Fiona Goode. Fiona is such a complex character, could only be pulled off by Lange, but she's such a morally divided character and always wants to stay on top. She wants that power, no matter whose throat she's got to cut or burn at the stake. I loved her style, intelligence, and rebellious nature. Fiona and the final 6 characters on my list have a great amount of detail installed by Murphy, Menier, Falchuk, etc., regardless of the screen time. And her best moments for me is her interactions back and forth between Delphine LaLaurie, yes, the wise moment, all great. That whole scene is amazing.
We've also had black secretaries of state, Supreme Court justices, and even the poet laureate.
As I mentioned, Fiona didn't make my list, but I love this pick, Greg. The way that Jessica Lange played Fiona Goode was just incredible. You know, she's outwardly confident. She's the reigning supreme, but she's aging. And inside, you can tell, and we see that she's very, very insecure in dealing with all of these things. You know, dealing with the finality of like her life and what's going to happen, and trying to kind of hold on to that for too long. So the way that Jessica Lange performed that and towing the line between both of those polar opposites, and then that last final conversation she had with her daughter at the end when she passes, was just some incredible stuff.
No powers, no magic. Just a woman facing the inevitable.
Now let's stick with Jessica Lange. Number 6 on my list is Sister Jude. Now, I don't think this is Jessica Lange's best character in the series, but it's perhaps the one that makes the greatest transformation from start to finish. When we first meet her, Sister Jude, aka Judy Martin, is a tough, strict, and cold woman that runs a tight ship at the asylum. But over the course of the season, she gets a taste of her own medicine and changes completely. She has a power struggle with a literal Nazi doctor, is set up by the literal devil, comes face to face with actual aliens, and loses her mind in the process. We also get a chance to learn about her backstory and get more context into this character, so making her a more well-rounded character, and we kind of understand where she's coming from. We see her search for love in all the wrong places, as well as her addiction to alcohol, until one fateful day when she's brought to the Catholic Church, literally after a car accident on the steps of the Catholic Church. She's riddled with guilt of her past life, which dominates how she sees the world later on. From the beginning of the story, she's one of the main antagonists, and by the end of it, it's someone that you're truly rooting for to see succeed and see, make it safely at the end. Greg, there's so many great Sister Jude moments, but I think we might be in agreement here. The name game, the performance that she does with the rest of the cast, one of the best musical numbers that we've seen throughout the entire series. But the manifestation of how they interpret like her going crazy and losing all of her memory and not even knowing her own name, and how they show it here in this episode is just absolutely incredible.
Judy, bo booty, banana, fana, fo foodie, thief, mo moody.
I also truly love the ending with Kit Walker, how touching it was that she's taken in by him, and then she forms this bond with his children, and she kind of becomes like a grandmother to them, and they kind of just they help kind of put her at peace. She's seen a hell of a lot, as I mentioned, and this kind of is a good way to wrap up her story and just kind of set her on her way and let her pass peacefully.
Now it's time for number 6. While number 7 was Fiona Goode for me, that means number 6 has to be Madison Montgomery. I had to add at least one Emma Roberts character to this list. I think it's against the law if I don't. And yes, I'm being calculating by sticking Madison right in front of Fiona. Listen, I love polarizing characters, and Mads is Coven's equivalent to Vegeta and DBZ. I mean, she killed Misty Day and spent most of the Coven antagonizing the other witches before her second death by the hands of Zombie Kyle, but the character is still one of AHS's best. Her redemption arc in Apocalypse sealed the deal as one of my favorites. Now, while we'll always have Scream Queens, and that's kind of like an extension of Madison Montgomery, I feel like there needs to be more here, and I feel like they have to do a real series with her and Behold. Now, best moment for me, the one that just pops in my head right now, is her lines in season 8 and when she's talking in hell to those shoppers.
Who are you? Huh? You're not even the star of your own hell. You're a nameless day player in my eternal suffering.
All right, now for number 5 on my list, it's Delphine LaLaurie. Greg, let's get one thing straight. Delphine LaLaurie is a horrible, horrible person. But Kathy Bates is incredible in this performance. Delphine is quite possibly the worst person in the entire series, a racist, torturer, murderer, and so on. But I had to put Kathy Bates' performance on this list. This one is unforgettable. And Delphine LaLaurie was actually a real-life person. So that's completely terrifying. Thankfully, she gets her due and is frozen in time as she's given immortality and buried alive. Now, the fun part about all this, if there is anything fun, is that she's then forced to kind of deal with all the changes in society in present day. So she tortured everyone her entire life prior, and now she's the one getting tortured at the present day, which she ultimately deserves. And the cherry on top, she ultimately gets sent to hell, which we liked. Now, the best moment, I think, it's the soundbite that keeps on giving, Greg. Here it is. But seriously, the ridiculousness of Fiona digging up Delphine to present day and then her having to watch the news and see that Barack Obama is president.
Great scene.
It was just absolutely over the top, insane, but it was hysterical.
All right, my number 5 on this list, just like before, where we had Fiona, then Madison. Now it's time for Queenie. Yep, still calculating by sticking Queenie in front of Madison. Gabourey kills it as Queenie, and I wish she starred in more seasons, honestly. Not only is Queenie a complex character, she has a pretty damn good power. A human voodoo doll. And she's constantly treated with contempt in almost every scene, and she's always fighting back. Now, Queenie was really a surprise character. No one saw this coming, and at this point, I really wish they brought back Gabourey Sidibe for more characters on this show. I hope they do in the future. Now, for me, my best moment with her is anything she had with Madison Montgomery. I thought the banter between Madison Montgomery and Queenie was just fire.
Honestly, I don't know. I was trying to talk him out of it the whole way here. I told him that you are a stone cold bitch and that you're exactly where you belong.
All right, Greg, number 4 on my list is Lana Winters. It's hard to believe, but this was actually Sarah Paulson's first leading role on American Horror Story. When we meet Lana, she's a motivated, up-and-coming journalist dedicated to her craft. She's also trying to get more info on the serial killer Bloodyface, which people believe is Kit Walker, but it's not true. Lana is then held against her will. Sister Jude is not nice, remember that? And she goes through literal hell. This is when the show gets very, very dark and traumatizing. They force her into electroshock therapy as well as conversion therapy. She's tortured and raped by Bloodyface himself, of course, and she even has her lover murdered. And then years later, she has to face her bastard child, who is Bloodyface 2.0. But ultimately, she escapes all these horrors. She puts it past her. She writes a book, and she helps uncover the dark history of the asylum. And she would eventually become a TV legend and icon of the likes of Barbara Walters or Oprah. We even get to catch up with her later in Roanoke at the very end. Now, if you're keeping score at home, Lana Winters kills not one, but 2 serial killers throughout the course of her run here. So, I mean, no one has a story arc quite like her from where she started to where she ended. And I think Sarah Paulson just did an incredible job carrying the season of Asylum. There's so many great Lana moments throughout the course of the series, but my favorite is when she finally escapes the asylum just, minutes away from all of her threats and finding out, and she leaves him with a perfect hand gesture as she's getting in that car.
Number 4 on my list, it happens to be another Paulson character. Here we go with Sally McKenna. Now, apparently I wasn't the only one who loved this character because she nabbed a Primetime Emmy nom for the role. Now, with that said, this role didn't vibe with a bunch of people at the time. It was very limited, but Paulson gave it her all, and that's what I loved about it. And I'm a fan of a little chaos, and this Sex Pistols meets Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice is perfect. I'm all in. It's just something about these roles where you can tell that Sarah Paulson was like, ooh, I got it. I know what I want to do here for this. I can just go head first, dive in, and just go crazy with it. So my favorite moment, what stuck in my head is the line when she's grinding her teeth, that disgusting moment with the kids.
Kids are the best.
Now on to number 3 on my list. It's Sister Mary Eunice. This is my favorite Lily Rabe performance, which is saying a lot because she's great in literally every season we see her. Sister Mary Eunice makes an incredible transformation from the beginning to the end of Asylum. When we meet her, she's Sister Jude's right-hand nun, and she'll do basically anything she says. But then there's an exorcism that goes wrong at the asylum, and the devil literally takes over her body. Lily Rabe completely transforms from here on out, and it's incredible television. The new Mary Eunice is a sexed-up version of her, and she terrorizes everyone in the asylum, including Sister Jude, Dr. Arden, and the Monsignor Timothy Howard. Now, by the end of the season, her tragic story comes to an end as she's pushed to her death. Now, Greg, before I get to my best moment, who do you have at number 3?
Sister Mary Eunice. She is one of the most evil characters in AHS, and she lives rent-free in my head. Lily Rabe can do no wrong with this character, and it all hinges on the back of her strong performance. She's just so damn delightful while being incredibly sinister. And there's probably no Michael Langdon in AHS without Sister Mary Eunice.
So let's talk about the best moments, Greg. There's so many great ones. I mean, her making everyone in the asylum completely uncomfortable is great TV. But I think her conversation with Jenny, that little troubled girl who also might be a murderer, was pretty awesome conversation where she kind of comes clean and reveals that she's the devil.
I know everything. I'm the devil.
That, and of course, movie night. Just one of the great.
Oh, who can forget about movie night?
All time. Greatest, maybe probably the greatest line all time in American Horror Story.
We're all going to be together in the dark, watching The Sign of the Cross. A movie full of fire, sex, and the death of Christians. What fun.
All right, now number 2 on my list, it is Liz Taylor. Liz made both of our lists, Greg, and there's no surprise there. She is literally one of the best characters, and Dennis O'Hare's performance is quite possibly my favorite out of the entire series. That's why we want more Dennis O'Hare in future seasons. Liz is the heart and soul of the 5th season of Hotel. She was the first transgender character on the series, had a tragic backstory of shame and guilt for leaving her family. It's only until she arrives at Hotel Cortez that she's empowered to be comfortable in her own skin. She does it all. She bartends, bookkeeps, runs a fashion show like you mentioned. Anything that needs to get done at the hotel, she's got it. If there's one person that knows all of the secrets in the hotel, it's gotta be Liz. She's wise, witty, and glamorous. So many great moments. But one of my favorites is when Lady Gaga, the Countess, is getting married. And she just her one-liner here is great.
Anyone present knows any reason why this man and this woman should not be joined in marriage? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah. Because she's a bitch with no conscience, no mercy, no soul.
And of course, another best moment, Greg, I think you'll agree here, is that reunion she has with her son. It'd been years since they saw each other. He has a family of his own. He comes to the bar and they have a very, very affecting and touching conversation, about what happened. And it's just very, very beautiful. And then they reconnect from then on out and they, become a part of each other's lives. Also, the ending when she is going, has cancer and is ultimately going to die. The Countess is the one to kind of transition her again into the afterlife. And she's reunited with her love, Tristan, there. So a beautiful send-off to one of the best characters we've ever seen in the show.
Now, number 2 on my list happens to be someone you left off the list. It is Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau, played by Angela Bassett, is damn near perfection in capturing a character's heart and soul. Bassett was born for this role. She had the best style and overall presence to make her easily crack the top 2 list. And this is another character that should get their own show when the time comes. Well, now what I love the most about Laveau is the lore. There's so much delightful backstory. Now, best moments for me are pretty much all of her interactions with Queenie, but almost every time she steps on screen, I'm just in love with this character. Angela Bassett really, really took control of this character. So again, I'm shocked when I went back and looked at my list and saw how many characters I actually added from that season, even though it's in the top. I don't know where I would rate it now after looking at this list and all the characters I have on there, and I'm not done yet.
Drum roll, please, Greg. Time for number 1 on my list, and it is Constance Langdon. Now, Constance is an absolute icon. When I think of American Horror Story, I immediately visualize Jessica Lange as the Harmons' nosy next-door neighbor with some deep, dark secrets of her own. Obviously, Lange is a legend, and the first performance in American Horror Story is everything. We quickly learn of her backstory, her dream to become a Hollywood actress, which falls short, and then her husband's infidelity, which would lead her spiraling into despair and down a dark, dark, dark hole. From here on out, she's a little too quick to kill. Let's be honest, she's a monster. Now, Greg, I don't know where you stand on this, but I think that Constance Langdon might be the worst TV mother in the history of television. That's saying a lot.
Yeah. She's certainly in the top 10, or at least top 5.
She's manipulative, cunning, and smart, and will do anything, including murder, for her own good. Ultimately, she takes in the Harmon's child, Michael Langdon. Only a mother like Constance could raise the Antichrist.
Now what am I gonna do with you?
Now, in Apocalypse, Greg, they try to redeem her a little bit. Like, they kind of make her into this character that she's not the same that we know in Murder House. She's absolutely horrible in Murder House. And then when we come back to Return to Murder House, she's kind of like this badass grandma that runs the house. And they kind of turn it into more of a redemption story here and kind of explain what she went through and how she tried her best to raise Michael Langdon and not let him go to the dark side. But let's be real. Constance Langdon is who she is. The funniest thing about all of this is that Constance, as horrible as she is, she actually saves the world at the very end of the show when she doesn't bring Michael Langdon inside to the murder house to save him. So she lets him die out there on the street, and the entire timeline is reset. So as horrible as Constance is, I guess by Apocalypse we're supposed to believe that she's okay. There's so many great moments of Constance Langdon, but the one that sticks in my head is her introduction to the show. When Adelaide pops up, scares the hell out of Vivian, and then Constance is there. She's that nosy next-door neighbor who you're not really sure about. Something's off about her. You can't put a finger on it. And you know that there's some trouble brewing around the corner here, and you can't trust her.
I used to have diamonds like that. Different pair for every day of the week.
I'll be honest with you, Constance didn't make my list, even though I think that Lange just knocked this character out of the park. I think it's one of her best roles, if not the best role she's had on the series. Now, with that said, the reason I didn't put her on there is because, just like you said before about all these neighbors, I grew up in a suburb, and we had a Constance Langdon who was our next door neighbor.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know about the Antichrist and the murder stuff, but everything else was there.
I sure hope not, Greg.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't confirm or deny that. But all I do know is that played a role in me not putting her on my top 10 list, because again, I'm thinking Greg Spot Island. I don't want her anywhere near it. Number 1 on my list, let's end it with the Supreme, Cordelia Goode. Yes, Cordelia Goode is my favorite AHS character, and Sarah Paulson and Jessica Lange are the gears that run this series. I chose Cordelia because she's the motherfucking Supreme. End of story.
What's a Supreme? You're looking at her.
Now, AHS Coven is full of amazing performances and characters, as I've highlighted in this ranking, and Paulson doesn't disappoint with Cordelia. She's fun, charismatic, and has a great arc. And on top of that, she's so damn powerful that she leads these characters in not only 1, but 2 seasons. Not many other characters can say that. Ryan, Cordelia Goode is just that one character I'm like, I'll do anything you want me to do. You just tell me right now and I'll go do it, because apparently it's the word of God. Now, for me, best moments has to be where she stabs her own goddamn eye out so she can get her visions back and protect her coven, her fellow witches. Iconic.
So there you have it. These are our official top 10 lists as of right now. Like we said, this might change next week or next month. Number 10 on my list, Dandy Mott. Number 9, Kai Anderson. Number 8, Myrtle Snow. Twisty, Sister Jude. Number 5, Madame Delphine LaLaurie. Number 4, Lana Banana Winters. Number 3, Sister Mary Eunice. Number 2, Liz Taylor. And number 1, Constance Langdon.
And one more time, my top 10 is Chester Creb, Kit Walker, Liz Taylor, Fiona Goode, Madison Montgomery, Queenie, Sally McKenna, Sister Mary Eunice, Marie Laveau, and Cordelia Goode.
Now, by the time you watch this video, I bet you both of our opinions have changed and our lists will look completely different. But for the time being, these are our official top 10 lists of our favorite characters of American Horror Story. Hit us up in the comments with what you thought of the lists. Make sure you like and subscribe, of course, because we have a ton more AHS content coming your way.
And like we said earlier in the video, we're going to spotlight individual actors next, so let us know who you want us to see ranked for their best characters very soon. Until then, bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you soon.